Maxine the bobcat was finally giving birth after an unexpected pregnancy. However, the wildlife staff at the Hillside Nature Reserve were shocked when they realized something was amiss with her litter of kittens, forcing them to intervene in a potentially dangerous situation. Maxine, known for her aloof and solitary nature, had been under observation for weeks, her behavior puzzling the reserve's caretakers. Late that afternoon, Dr. Brian Carter, the attending veterinarian, and Ethan Nolan, the lead wildlife specialist, stood outside Maxine's enclosure observing her with concern. The usually reserved bobcat paced restlessly, her sleek coat rippling with tension. Her piercing golden eyes, often so calm and calculating, were clouded with unease. Occasionally she let out low, guttural growls that sent shivers through the reserve staff. For hours, Maxine's pacing continued, interrupted only by sporadic moments when she crouched low to the ground, her tail flicking erratically. Brian and Ethan exchanged worried glances as the realization dawned. Maxine was in labor. They had known she was pregnant, though the exact timeline had been uncertain. This development was earlier than anticipated, setting off a chain of hurried preparations among the staff. The team had been expecting Maxine to deliver 2 or 3 kittens, given the size of her rounded belly. The test conducted just days before had shown no signs of complications, but her restlessness and the premature timing worried everyone. Wildlife reserve births were inherently unpredictable, and the stakes were high. Maxine was a critical part of their conservation program, having been rescued from an illegal fur trapping operation and rehabilitated to live in the semi-wild sanctuary. The birthing den had been meticulously prepared, equipped with cameras to monitor the process without intruding on Maxine's space. The reserve staff watched anxiously from the observation room as she finally settled into the den, her breaths coming in rapid, labored bursts. Maxine's age added an additional layer of concern. At 8 years old, she was nearing the upper end of the breeding window for bobcats, and this pregnancy had been considered a blessing and a gamble. After nearly an hour of labor, Maxine gave a powerful push, and the first kitten emerged. The staff let out a collective sigh of relief as the tiny, damp figure squirmed and let out its first squeaky cries. Maxine immediately began grooming her kitten, her rough tongue meticulously cleaning the fragile newborn. Not long after, a second kitten arrived, followed by a third. Each birth wrought a wave of excitement among the staff as they marveled at the sight of the healthy, wiggling kittens. By the time the 4th kitten was born, Maxine appeared utterly exhausted. Her sleek frame heaved with each breath as she gathered her kittens close, her instincts taking over despite her fatigue. Brian and Ethan exchanged glances, marveling at the miracle they had witnessed. 4 kittens were a remarkable outcome for a bobcat of her age, but Maxine wasn't finished. With one last guttural growl and a strained push, she gave birth to a 5th kitten. The room fell silent as the camera zoomed in on the newborn. Something was wrong. While the first 4 kittens were of average size, their coats already showing faint patterns of spots and stripes, the 5th was alarmingly small and frail. Its fur was sparse and patchy, revealing pale, almost translucent skin beneath. The tiny creature barely moved, its limbs limp and uncoordinated. Brian immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. "That one's in trouble," he muttered, already moving to prepare for intervention. Ethan nodded grimly, his years of experience telling him that this kitten's chances were slim. But before they could approach the enclosure, they had to consider the potential reaction of its fiercely protective mother. Maxine, despite her exhaustion, was alert to the movements outside her den. Her sharp gaze followed every motion of the staff, her body tensing defensively whenever anyone came too close. Bobcats, especially new mothers, were notoriously unpredictable. The staff had no way of knowing how Maxine would react if they attempted to retrieve the struggling kitten. As they debated their next move, something unexpected happened. Maxine stepped away from her kittens, her eyes fixed on the tiny, motionless figure of her 5th born. She nudged it gently with her nose, emitting soft, mournful sounds as if willing it to respond. When she heard the approach of the vet team, her reaction stunned everyone. Rather than bristling with aggression, Maxine moved to the side of the den, her body language hesitant but non-threatening. It was as though she understood the humans were there to help. Taking this as a sign, Brian and Ethan approached cautiously. The other bobcats in the adjacent enclosures watched silently, their usual restlessness replaced with an almost eerie stillness. Brian, gloved and prepared for resistance, slowly entered the den. Maxine watched intently but made no move to stop him as he gently scooped up the frail kitten and retreated to the examination table set up nearby. The atmosphere was heavy with tension as Brian conducted a quick assessment. The kitten's breathing was shallow, its tiny chest barely rising and falling. It was severely underweight, its bones visible beneath its fragile skin. The staff worked swiftly, administering fluids and placing the kitten in a heated incubator to stabilize its body temperature. Maxine remained at the entrance to her den, her golden eyes locked on the humans as they worked. Despite her apparent calmness, the staff maintained a respectful distance, knowing that any sudden movement could provoke her protective instincts. Hours turned into days as the team focused their efforts on saving the tiny kitten, whom they named Aspen. The odds were against it. Aspen had been born with a congenital defect that impaired its ability to nurse properly, making it reliant on tube feeding and constant care. The staff consulted with wildlife specialists and veterinarians across the country, pooling their expertise to give Aspen the best possible chance at survival. Meanwhile, Maxine continued to care for her other 4 kittens with unwavering devotion. She groomed them, kept them warm, and stood guard over them with a vigilance that was both inspiring and heartbreaking. She frequently glanced toward the area where Aspen was being cared for, her maternal instincts clearly extending to her struggling kitten despite the separation. Aspen's condition slowly began to improve. Its once feeble movements grew stronger, and its soft cries became louder. The patchy fur started to fill in, and its eyes, which had been tightly shut since birth, finally opened to reveal a pair of vivid blue irises. Each small milestone was met with cautious optimism by the team, who had grown deeply attached to the little fighter. Reintroducing Aspen to Maxine and the rest of the litter was a delicate process. The bond between a mother bobcat and her kittens is critical to their development, and the team worried that the separation might have disrupted that connection. When the day finally came, Brian carefully placed Aspen a few feet away from Maxine, holding his breath as he stepped back to observe. Maxine approached slowly, her movements deliberate. She sniffed Aspen, her nose brushing against the kitten's tiny body. For a moment, the staff held their breath, unsure of how she would react. Then, to their immense relief, Maxine began grooming Aspen with the same meticulous care she had shown her other kittens. She picked up the tiny bobcat by the scruff of its neck and carried it back to the rest of the litter, nuzzling it into the warm pile of siblings. The sight brought tears to the eyes of many on the team. Against all odds, Aspen had not only survived but was now back with its family, accepted and nurtured by its resilient mother. The other kittens seemed to welcome Aspen without hesitation, their playful interactions a testament to the strength of their familial bond. As weeks turned into months, Aspen continued to grow and thrive. The once fragile kitten became a lively and adventurous young bobcat, often leading its siblings in playful escapades around the enclosure. Maxine's unwavering care had given all 5 of her kittens the foundation they needed to flourish. The story of Maxine and Aspen quickly became a symbol of hope and resilience, drawing attention to the critical work being done at the Hillside Nature Reserve. The reserve set up a live-stream camera in the bobcat enclosure, allowing viewers from around the world to witness the daily lives of the bobcat family. Donations poured in, helping to fund further conservation efforts and ensure the continued care of the animals. Maxine's journey from a rescued bobcat to a devoted mother was a testament to the enduring strength of wildlife and the impact of dedicated conservation work. Her story and Aspen's miraculous survival served as a poignant reminder of the delicate balance between nature and human intervention, a balance that, when handled with care and compassion, could lead to extraordinary outcomes.